Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Cheap Property Spain video podcast. A few weeks ago, I sat down with Mark and Rosi, the founders of Galician Country Homes, a real estate agency located in Galicia, in the northwest of Spain. Honestly, I've been obsessed with their website ever since I found it about 1 year ago. They have some of the most amazing homes for sale at unbelievable prices. For example, this 1-acre organic farm with a move-in ready cottage, a large stone house, and a greenhouse for only 55,000 euros. Or if you're really feeling adventurous, how about this 14th century castle for only 225,000 euros? The list goes on and on. Their agency is actually one of the best in Spain. They've won countless awards and been featured in magazines such as Forbes. Even more interesting than the homes is Mark and Rosi's own personal story. Neither of them ever set out to become real estate agents. Mark grew up in the UK and studied farming and agriculture, while Rosi was born in France and spent the early part of her career as a veterinarian. But when the couple set out to find a family home, they ended up falling in love with an old stone house in a sleepy Galician village. The home had been vacant for decades and was honestly in pretty awful shape. But Mark had a vision. He knew they could restore it and make a great home for their growing family.
Shall we say this? It had holes in the roof that went through 3 floors and you could fall without touching the sides. In fact, my wife did fall through one. Luckily, I was below her. I got typical case of this house is a ruin, like the film, but worse.
So did you have a lot of experience prior to refinishing houses?
None. Oh. But I said, we can do it. And I brought my wife to see the house. And I said, can you see we can restore these windows, these beams, these doors? And she said, no, I can't see them. I said, what can you see? She said, cobwebs and shit.
This house has 200 years old, more or less.
Wow.
And
it was Franco's chauffeur's house. And it's where 12 of his black Moroccan bodyguard were based here with their black horses. And every time he came to Galicia, they got on the train here with him, and they were with him when he was in Galicia. And when he wasn't here, they used to terrorize the area.
It's amazing. What are these homes built of?
In our case, our house is built of slate with granite surrounds on the doors and the windows, but very, very hard slate, which is local slate. And it's very even difficult to chip it with a big hammer. You've got to know how to do it.
Yeah.
Luckily, all the walls were good on the house.
What is the size of this house?
About 650 square meters.
So you've bought this huge house with several holes in it. What next then? Were you guys just kind of looking at each other like, how do we figure this out? Or how did that go?
The day I came into the house, I made a mental plan of how I would rebuild it. And we only changed one thing, which was the staircase from one place to another. Apart from that, everything else came out of my mind.
Did you hire an architect or anything, or just draw it all out?
I drew it up in my mind.
Wow.
I got I sprayed it on the floor, here, and here, and we followed that plan.
Was the first step to just start building, or did you have to get approval from the local government, or?
We asked for an approval from the local town council to re-roof for starters. And then after that, we asked for an interior, light work, shall we say, an interior. They said, what are you going to do? I said, put in a bathroom, put in some of the electrics. They never had water, this house, but connect the water. We have a spring just in front of us. And then apart from that, I asked for a permit for minor works, which they asked me what I was going to do. As I said, not very much, but right now we've done a bit more than that. It's now worth €500,000. I got to the bank.
What did you pay for the house originally when it was, with holes in the roof and everything?
I think at that moment it was €50,000.
Wow.
I'm thinking in pesetas, 50,000 pesetas. Our total expense would be somewhere about €150,000.
it is more expensive if you contract the other people.
So you did all the work yourselves?
All the work ourselves. except for one thing, which was putting the slate on the roof. It was March, it was frosty, and one man on the roof is not a good idea. We got some slaters to put the roof on. We prepared all the wood, got everything done except for that. And that took them about 4 days to do the roof.
I tried to tile a bathroom at one point, and it took me hours of just researching on how to do it. So I can't even imagine remodeling an entire house myself. But that's an amazing undertaking.
Well, there's even one thing I like to tell. My wife was sweating outside, pointing. She did all the pointing on the house. She chipped off all the plaster. She power washed it all, and she pointed it again. And I said, "What do you want for your birthday?" And she said, "What do you think I want?" A concrete mixer.
Not a bad gift.
It is my best friend.
So from the time you purchased the home to the time you actually moved in, how long was that? Was that years, months?
Let me just explain. Every day after work, after 8 to 10 hours work, I put in an extra 6 hours in the house. And my wife couldn't do that during the week because of the kids. But on Saturdays and Sundays, she came. We put some boards over the holes in the floor, and we left the kids out to pasture in the house while we worked on it. 18 months it took us.
And was it stressful? Was it kind of, I would imagine it's quite difficult to balance all of that.
Well, put it this way, we did cry sometimes.
Of course. But you've made it through, and 20 years later, was it worth it?
Certainly. Yeah.
Of course. Once they finished building their home, Mark's health actually started to decline, and he was forced to find a new career. That's when he had the idea to become an estate agent.
Well, as I said later, about 2 years afterwards, I had health problems with one of my hips above anything else. I couldn't handle weights. I couldn't work on farms. And the doctor said, hold on as long as you can without operating it. And my wife said, what are you going to do? I said, well, let's just think about this. I think we'll sell houses, set up a website. I had never been into internet in my life. And she said, do you think you can make a living? I said, okay. How many people have done up their own house completely in Galicia? She said, 50, 100, 150, not more. And I said, and how many of those speak six languages? She said, you're probably the only one. I said, fine. And if I'm not the only one, how many get on well with everybody? She said, you'll make a living. And here we are 18 years later.
So what are some of the most unique homes you've sold?
We've sold the most expensive one we sold was a summer home for the Bishop of Lugo and the Bishop of Santiago, and 60 hectares of land with it. And apart from that, about 8 houses with it, which were built by the Templars.
Wow. The Knight Templars, the Knights Templar. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, the crosses on them from when they were on the inside, because they were at that time they were being hounded down, and the crosses, and they never put them on the outside of the houses. And we've had homes that were built, stately homes that were built by Christopher Columbus's parents in 1400, in 1400. 2 of them were built by his parents. We have just sold right now a horse training center to some people from Abu Dhabi. This was 2 weeks ago. We have clients looking for businesses, and we more or less anything that's in Galicia, except for apartments and flats, we sell. We don't sell things within the cities really at all. We are rustic homes, country homes, and we do that. We don't do either any rentals. We only do sales. By the way, when people come to us, the first thing we say is, tell us what your dreams are, and we'll try to make them come true.
So if people want to get in touch with you, how would they, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Well, if they go to our website, which is Galician Country Homes, Galician Country Homes, or they write my name in, Mark Adkinson. I think there's about 2,000 references to us there. Either of those, or my wife's name, but that's a bit more difficult for the foreigners, which is Rosi Costoya. Any of those, you would get straight through to us. But the company's name is Galician Country Homes. And this is part of the Country Homes group here in Spain.
Great. And we'll have all those links and your contact info in the description here.
And apart from that, right now we've sold a lot the last couple of months. I've got about 60 properties to put up on the website now. But until we get all the papers right, we don't put anything up. And we've got about 160 some right now on the website. So we will normally work about between 200 and 240. But just lately, we've been selling 20 some a month.
How do clients typically pay for the homes? Do they pay in cash or do they obtain some sort of financing?
Normally, most of them pay in cash. Because you can get a mortgage here, but you have to justify where your money's coming from, and that you can't pay the mortgage. Or if you've got properties, you must bring the list of the properties you have so that the banks trust you.
Right. Yeah, it can be difficult. I know quite a few people who, maybe they make their income from retirement or passive income or, from a company in the United States or something, but the Spanish banks find it difficult maybe to work with a foreign person with income in that way.
If you can justify your income, as would be the wage slips or the pension slips, and apart from that, the properties you may have in another part of the world, as long as the wage that's coming in would pay for the mortgage, you should have no problem. We have an agreement with banks here to help our clients out.
Okay, so it is possible then to obtain a mortgage in Spain based on foreign income,
as long as you can justify it and show it.
Okay.
Yeah. Apart from that, there are certain countries which the banks, as with most countries, like to know where the money's coming from. For example, Colombia, etc.
Of course. Is it possible, or have you ever worked with or heard of a buyer obtaining seller financing? So where the seller of the home essentially finances the purchase for them?
Not really. There's been a couple of cases where they've allowed them to pay them part of it a year later, but that's all. Just a couple of cases out of the hundreds of houses we've sold.
Wow. So it's just really not done much in Spain, seller financing?
No, not really. Not really. Some people are a bit frightened of you paying one installment and then being a squatter or whatever. What is the process of buying a house in Galicia? This is something I said to people when they ask me. First of all, come and see the property. We don't let people buy without seeing. Second, if you want to buy, we help you open up a bank account in Spain and get you the NIE number. We do a holding contract where the money goes into the owner's bank account. The contract is to protect both parties. When you've transferred the money to a Spanish bank, we go to the notaries, hand over a certified banker's check from your bank account. The property has normally been bought and sold and is registered, so there's no problem with the paperwork. If they are not in those conditions, we have an in-house lawyer to check everything before it's put on the website. We don't want any problems with people getting to the notary and finding there's something missing. Okay? Once bought, you would have to pay 6 to 10% between taxes and notary fees and registration. You've got 30 days to do that. And if you intend to live permanently here, the cost would be less, more or less 6%. One thing, if people under 35 come, they will not pay any taxes on the properties because they're trying to get young people in childbearing age to come into the area, because this is an area that's been very deprived. And we've got the oldest population in Europe. We have 1,600 people over 100 years of age here.
He's not joking. There's actually a ton of incentives from the local government in place for those who want to buy a property in Galicia. The largest ones are available if you move to a town with less than 10,000 people, which honestly is like 90% of the cities in the area. So almost anyone who buys a home here qualifies for some kind of tax rebate.
You will pay tax on the property when you buy it, and on the land neither. And I don't think you'd pay any tax from then on. But even the tax on a house here in the countryside might be 40 euros a year.
Since Mark and Rosie have been living in Galicia for over 20 years, I took the opportunity to ask them what the area is like. It's known for being very different than the Spain most tourists see. Far from Barcelona and the beaches of the Costa del Sol, Galicia has a unique spirit of its own. It's located on the Bay of Biscay, just above Portugal, and their history is intertwined with both Spanish and surprisingly Celtic traditions. The area is covered in rivers, trees, and, well, greenery. That's probably why they call it España Verde. Some of the most popular cities include Santiago de Compostela, Vigo, Pontevedra, and A Coruña. How would you describe Galicia to people who may have never been to it?
Should we put it this way? It's got a similar climate to the English Midlands, but about 10 degrees warmer on average. It rains as much as it would in the Midlands, but if not, you wouldn't have 300 million trees as we do in Galicia. You wouldn't have 10,000 kilometers of trout, salmon, and sea trout rivers. And you wouldn't have the climate where anything you plant grows tremendously. And you don't need much land here to produce all you need. You don't need much land at all.
Is the green part in Spain?
Yeah.
It's green. According to the Times, we have some of the best beaches in the world. And apart from that, we've got beaches all the way around, very similar to Cornwall, but a lot warmer.
Mark, did you speak Spanish before you moved?
And before I came to Spain, not a word.
Yeah.
In 6 months, I could speak reasonable Spanish. And when I came to Galicia, after 3 years in the other side of Spain, my Spanish was pretty good.
Mm.
And now I think it's impeccable.
Yeah.
And the locals speak Spanish and Gallego, our local language, which is similar to Portuguese, but everybody speaks Spanish. And if they notice you don't understand the Gallego, immediately they'll swap into Spanish for you. One of the things I would like to say, and this is important, is the people here don't care where you come from. They don't care what color you are, which way your eyes look, up or down or whatever. They accept everybody naturally. We've never had anybody complain about them being discriminated, ever. They might look at you for the first time and say, "Where's he from?" But the second time, they'll say, "Come on, I'll give you a beer."
That's great.